Howdy there, partners. We're going to talk about how to build garden-style apartment buildings in Revit, or at least how we've been doing it over the last, say, year and a half, 2 years now. We had kind of two problems in the transition from doing these in AutoCAD to doing these in Revit when we started. One was the transfer of information from project to project. We have a lot of details. We have a lot of just stuff that is kind of copy paste from one job to the next. That's sort of the efficiency of these garden style apartment buildings, and it's part of the reason that we can do so many of them in a short period of time, shorter than a lot of other projects. So we needed to keep that intact. Another problem was the relationship of our units and our unit plans to the building plans into one another. When we change something one place, it's got to change another place. And we like to have our unit plans set a little bit differently from our building plans, and I'll explain why that is here going forward. But basically our solution is kind of a combination of groups and data kind of housed within groups by attached detail groups. To kind of avoid the pitfalls that we were kind of seeing that were kind of having us spend a lot more time than we had to in these projects. So we talk a little bit about how we have our unit groups set up. Now we've got a whole big old file of these set, and this is in 20 LDOO on BIM 360. We've got a garden style units file. We've also got kind of a fledgling corridor style units file and a couple of other things in there, but this is by far our most comprehensive one. And the nice thing is that each of these units is set up to a sheet in here that we have kind of a package, a PDF packet, if you will, of units that we can send to our clients, and our clients say, hey, well, we like these 3 or 4. Can you show us what they look like, or can we make these little changes, so on and so forth. So, I mean, if you have a second, just go through and take a look at these. A lot of these, some of them will say, like this one, for example, we used in Lakeside Gardens. It looks like this one in Kearney Ridge, Barrington, so on and so forth. If you listening to this have any better ideas how to organize this, I am all ears. This is something we have wanted to kind of reorganize for a long time. But there's a lot of units here. And actually, oftentimes, when Warren and I are working with a client in early stages, we will make a kind of pared down unit file. As you can see, there's way fewer units in here. We'll save that in. This one was for an Evan Holiday job. I believe Stonebridge Apartments. We'll save that in the unit folder. So we can kind of work with these and get them exactly where our clients want before we go on to what I'm about to show you how to do. So just kind of be aware that all of those things exist. When we get into our actual how these unit groups are composed, I've got a couple of different groups within groups, and I tend to say don't do groups within groups, but you'll kind of see why we end up breaking some of these, and really these are just kind of a container for transferring these things from project to project and laying these things out as we're doing things early on in the project. So we've got kind of a shell group. I call it Unit 1A in this example. This group has a couple of things in it. It's got all of our bounding walls, it's got a breezeway wall, all of our exterior walls. It's got demising walls, stuff like that. Then we've also got an interior group in here, and really this guy inside of this interior group. And the interior group has all kinds of stuff in it. It's got all of our walls, it's got our kitchen, it's got our bathroom, closet stuff, laundry stuff, all of the stuff that makes up our unit that are not the outside bounding walls are in this group. So, and then from in there, we've got a couple other little things in here. If we use a kitchen a bunch of other times, we'll kind of group that within there. So, and again, the efficiency of these groups, we change it one place, it'll change somewhere else that group exists. So like I said, we've got a shell group, we've got an interior group. And the reason that, and one of the nice things about having these groups is that we have these attached detail groups here. If I go into here, you'll see we've got all of these dimensions, all of these tags, all of this stuff that we've already done in another project. We can kind of keep them contained within this within these groups as attached detail groups. And all you got to do is click on this little tab up here and check these on and off as you wish. We've got exterior dimensions, we've got notes and tags. Sometimes you will have to tab into the interior group to find some attached detail groups in there too. But if those are all on correctly, then we can transfer all of our unit plan information from project to project as well. And also, one nice thing about this is that some of our interior elevation information will get transferred as well. So if I make an elevation here, let's say, and I go into here, this is our kitchen. I can tab to the kitchen group and hit attach detail groups. And I've got interior elevation information for this kitchen here as well. I've got one for the range, one for the sink. We look at it, we see the range here, so I'm just going to click on the range. And now this is mostly okay. We're missing one little here for some reason, but we can fix it. Voila, there we go. So that's kind of the gist of why we group things the way we do, or at least in a copying sense, so we can kind of take information and work that we've already done on other projects and insert them into new projects and save us a lot of time and energy. We do now. How do we transfer these groups from project to project? What you're going to want to do is go into wherever the units are housed. Usually it's going to be either the main unit file, or if we have one of these guys, one of these project-specific unit files that we've been working on. Pretty easy. Just going to click on the group and hit File, Save As, Library, Group. So it's File, Save As, go all the way down to the bottom, Library, and Group. And you'll see the group name will show up here in this little drop box, and you're going to save it wherever you want. It's not really, I don't find any efficiency or any use in keeping these files around after they're uploaded into the project file, so you can really save them wherever you'd like. We also want to make sure that this checkbox, include attached detail groups as views, is checked. And you're just going to hit save, and it's going to think for a while. I'm not going to make you sit through that here. I've already got them saved out. So whenever you're ready to upload one of our unit groups to a file, we're going to go to Insert, Load as Group, and we're going to navigate to wherever we've saved it. I saved some of this stuff on my desktop to cut down on time here. I've got 1 bedroom and 2 bedroom already in there. I'm going to upload the 3 bedroom, in this case unit 3E. We're going to want to include attached details. I'm just going to hit open, and there's going to be a bunch of text or like warning things that come up. You're just going to click through them. Yes, we want to continue. Okay, we're going to use whatever those groups are. Just click through it. And we're going to think, and we're going to think. Yes, this is fine to replace the existing groups. And we're going to think some more, and now it's uploaded in. Now we have to place it, though. It's in the project, but we got to place it into the model space. By the way, we tend to keep our units in this area over here. We call it the unit lawn. It's got these green kind of grid things in it. These boxes here are scope boxes. They correspond to different sheets in our set that we already have set up in our template. So if I place this model group for the 3-bedroom unit in this scope box here, this unit 3 scope box, it's going to show up on our enlarged unit plan sheet, which is kind of nice. I'm going to place the group, I'm going to go architecture model group, and then we've got a little drop down here. We're just going to go place model group, and you're going to click this little drop down box in the properties, and we're going to find the group that we just put in here. It's going to be unit 3E, and we got it here. We're just going to place it in that scope box. Yeah, I don't care about that. Don't care that we have multiple rooms in the same necessarily. We can fix that later. So you can kind of just align this as you will, get it set up the way that you want it. You can adjust this scope box as needed if the unit's too long or too wide or is way too small for it, however you need to do it. But now we've got a nice 3-bedroom unit in here. And again, if we go in here, we can take a look at our attached detail groups. We've got a bunch in there. So yeah, the interior group's busted on that one, so we're not going to use that for now. And if anything, so I just kind of, this is probably a good example. I just looked in here, I just inserted this group, and for some reason we don't have an interior group in here. All of this stuff is just sort of chilling. If you see anything like that, let one of us know, and we'll work through it with you. Revit, unfortunately, is all about solving problems. So we've got all of our units in here, and we talked about how they're kind of built with the group, with the interior group and the outside shell group, and then all of the attached detail groups within those that contain all of our annotation information. Now we've got to build the building. In our garden style buildings, as I'm sure you've seen, have a couple of different components. They've got the actual units themselves, they've got the breezeways, got a fire riser room. That's pretty generally it. So we keep our building plans in these scope boxes here. You'll notice that they're named building type A, building type B, building type C, and clubhouse. May need more. You can always copy these around. You can always move them if needed. See, if I copied it. It just made building type H. I can call it E if I want, however you want to do it, is fine. So we're going to make building type A here. It's going to have 4 2-bedrooms per floor and 4 1-bedrooms per floor. Pretty typical unit mix that we see. I've already got our breezeway in here. This is a pretty standard breezeway group that we use. We can kind of get it in place and then modify it a little bit. So I'm just going to move it to this scope box here. And for the first building you do, this is going to be important because this scope box, as far as stair plans, it corresponds to our plans on our A600 sheets that show exactly how to build all of our stairs and this end of the breezeway with our sloped floor on the first floor and all the good stuff that they need to know to build the breezeway in our set. So we do want to make sure that, at least in the first building, that this breezeway is sitting within that scope box. Now we got to make 1/2 of the building. To do that, I'm going to copy over some of these groups in here. I'm going to take right here at the origin point, at the very, very tip top of the breezeway wall. You'll notice that this breezeway wall sits a 1/2 inch above this little half guy here. You'll see why in a second. Our demising wall is actually 2 2x4 walls with gyp on either side and an inch gap in between. And that's just kind of how we lay that out in the correct area. So again, we're just going to kind of click that. So we've got one setup here. we're just gonna copy that around or mirror that up. And it's gonna think for a second. Yeah, this is fine. So now we've got the end of our building. One thing I've noticed is that this is not an exterior wall here. Sometimes these units are set up to be interior units, which need our need the demising walls on both sides. Sometimes they're exterior units, like this 3-bedroom should be over here. Yeah, you can see we've got an exterior wall with some windows over here. We can always set up different groups for that. So to do that, I would probably go ahead and duplicate this and say unit 2D. Exterior wall. And all the stuff on the inside stays the same. We're just going to click in, and the easiest way to do this is probably put this on core face. Is it interior? It's going to be exterior. And then changing this to match this guy, which is our exterior piece. And you want to make sure that the sheathing is on the outside. And voila. Well, half-inch. Come on. There. I got to disallow the join. Gonna get a little half-inch there. And we're just going to change this to the exterior wall 1 as well. Now we've got a nice exterior wall across this whole outside here. So now we're going to do the same thing in the interior with the 1-bedrooms. You'll notice we need to flip this so that the door is on the correct side. So I'm just going to go ahead here. It's MJ. It's going to think. And it's going to think some more. Oh, that's good. We'll deal with that. So that error usually happens when we have the wrong window type in there, which does happen. Yeah, okay. All of our window types, here, I'm going to back out of this real quick. All of our window types should be 08. So it needs to be 08 win unit double 2. That's it. And it looks like the same thing, but for some reason, they work. So we're going to do this again, and hopefully, yeah, there we go. See, we're good to go. And we're just going to move this guy up into place the exact same way we did the first two, just on the other side of the breezeway. I got the wrong side. It's like making a Bob Ross painting sometimes. We get happy little accidents, although we can't leave them. One thing I'm noticing here is that this door will not work, but that's something that you've got to kind of work with when you're designing the units. We would probably need to make this breezeway longer so that the stair doesn't come up in front of the door. For sake of argument right now, I'm just going to ignore that. If you see that, come grab Warren, likely, or me, I guess. So now we've got half of the building done. And really, this guy should have our little half on the outside as well. Always make that's 13/16, which is just going to make that half-inch. It does move everything, unfortunately. I usually do this by hand if I can, so it doesn't move everything as I'm. All right, come on. And then again, this will change that. This will add that nub everywhere. So just like we did the rest of these, we're just going to go ahead and mirror all this stuff on top of each other. Don't get any scope boxes or anything in it. We don't need to copy those. But okay. And we're just going to mirror it on the center line. And you can click through that. And now we've got the outside, we got the first floor plan at least of a building. So let's take a look at the 3D view real quick. You'll kind of see what we're working with. All of this is on the first floor as it is. And the breezeways are fully modeled because that's something we kind of just take from project to project. What we want to do now is break all of these unit groups. On the overall building plan, we do not want the exterior shell group. We only want the interior group inside of it to remain. So I'm just going to select all of these and show you exactly what I mean. Got eight model groups right here. Going to hit ungroup. So now a couple of things here. We've got our interior shell group still here. All of the guts, all of the stuff that we could hypothetically change are still intact, but the outside walls are outside the group. And this will make it a lot easier for us now to go ahead and finish off this model. So one thing I would recommend doing now, because we basically, now we need to take these exterior walls and send them all the way up to the truss bearing, which is past the third floor. So I would go ahead and delete some of them just so that we don't have two different walls on the same plane. See, like this is obvious. They're going to build this as one wall. It's not. Ooh, come on, where'd you go? If you ever do that, just go zoom to fit's fine. There we go. They're not going to build this as two separate walls like this per unit. It's just, you can just get one out of there and hit TR. Come on. TR. And make it one. One thing I've noticed about these unit groups that I'm using is that these windows I typically have inside of these groups, these interior groups to start. I should have had that done already. I'm gonna go ahead and do that real quick right now. And this is kind of something, if you notice, you can always or just delete them everywhere else you have them. And then we're going to go ahead and just Control X and Control V, and voila, they're in the unit groups. See, just like they were before. Now I can do the same thing I just did on those side walls with this here front wall. See, that window's kind of ghosted in right there. As you fix these front walls, just hit TR to make it one. Now all you got to do is click on that interior unit group and hit restore all excluded, and voila, there it is. Now you'll notice these windows are probably too big. We can mess with that. We probably want them to look a little bit more like these. We can mess with that here in a second. I'm gonna do the same thing over here. TR to trim those together, and then we're just going to restore all excluded on the window. Now, the other thing too is that I tend to not leave these separate walls here. This does, if we look at our coordination plan, this looks exactly like what we want our demising wall to look like. It's a 2x4 stud with or two 2x4 studs with an inch gap in between, and then gyp on either side. But I can turn this into a single wall, and that makes it a little bit easier to work with going forward. I usually have these as O4, like the letter O4 in our files. So I'm just gonna trace over these briefly. Now sometimes we have a back-to-back 2x6 wall like this when we have plumbing, so that's okay. We can kind of we can work around that. And yeah, I know highlighted walls are overlapping. We're going to delete one of those here soon. Just going to get these all imported. However you get these in is fine. And again, we do these 2x6 walls here when we have plumbing, usually a toilet or a sink, or laundry for that matter, on our exterior wall. We got to have room for the plumbers to fit all their work in. Then I should have 06. I don't have 06. So I'm going to go change that real quick. If we need to put a new wall type in here that's based on something like this, I want a 2x6 version of this 04 wall. We're just going to go duplicate. We're going to rename it the exact same thing. I'm going to call it 06. And then I'm going to go in here into this structure, this edit structure tab here. And I'm just going to change this, structure thickness to 5.5 on each side. It's the size of the 2x6 stud. And now you want to make sure that the type mark, we'll change the type mark. Now we're just going to call it 06. We're going to do the same thing. See, now we've got a nice same wall, but 2x6s instead of 2x4s. And I didn't do this side yet, so we're just going to go ahead and do that. And then find an 04. And do the same thing again. All right, so now we just got to kind of tab to each of these kind of individual stinkers here. I'm going to go ahead and select all instances visible in view of that D4 wall. Going to make sure we don't want to delete it out of here, obviously, so I'm just going to select the and I'm going to hit delete. And I'm going to do the same thing for those 2x6s. Tab. There we go. Select all instances visible in view. Going to deselect unit plans and hit delete again. Oh, I missed one. So I gotta create similar. Was it this? Yeah, there we go. There we go. Now we're set. So now go back to the 3D view. This should look pretty similar, but we've got it all kind of cleaned up. I'm gonna take all of these walls here, with the exception of our unit groups and our breezeway groups, just the walls outside the group. Looks like I got maybe a few things here. I just want the walls. Boom. So now Now we're going to send this from level 1 all the way up to the truss bearing. Okay. Now we've got the starts of a building here. I think what part of my problem is that I need to put these just like a class middle group. I need to put the windows inside. This should be set up in most of these silly files. So I'm just quick. Oh, Control X. I can get that door. Oh, second door. Get rid of here. Just gonna grab all this stuff and put it in here. This just makes it easier to copy between levels. So go into that, double click into that, and then align to same place. Stick them in there. It's gonna think again. We can figure out what that means later. But these all now are ready to be copied up. So we're just going to take our 8 units. Got them all selected. Going to hit Control C, and then this paste tool up here. Going to hit the drop down, align to selected levels. It's going to be levels 2 and 3, and it's just going to copy them up. And it's going to think here for a second again. Yeah, we don't care about the multiple rooms so much. A lot of times that's just because we have like an overarching room in here for our that just calls it a 1-bedroom or a 2-bedroom or something like that. It's really not. So yeah, now we've got all 3 floors of the building modeled. We can go through and add a roof, whatever we think that's going to look like. That is the RF command. And I'm not going to go crazy with it here, but let's just say we wanted it to be a pretty simple hipped roof. We're just going to draw that over. We want to make sure it's on the truss bearing level, by the way. We're just going to move. We typically do 2-foot overhang, so I'm just going to move these out 2 feet. Don't offset it. I've found like it's a perfectly reasonable thing to think to do. But I find that screws up the height of the truss bearing height of the roof. Overbuilt thing that needs to sit below truss bearing. I have no idea why Revit does move these instead of. So now we've got kind of the outline of our roof. We want to make sure that we typically start with 4.5 to 12 as our slope. You just change that here in your properties. So we're just going to hit boom. I usually say don't attach. If I need to attach something, I can do it myself. Now we've got the starts of a nice little building here. You'll notice our windows are a little screwed up. If we want to go, the nice thing about having these in the interior group now is that I can go in and change these. This is going to say 8 by 8, isn't it? Or 6 by 8. We usually do 6 by 6. And we usually don't do these little transom things that you'll see here on top of the window. So to get that out, you want to make this window unit 1 height value. You want to make that 2 inches less than this unit width overall number. So that would be 5. And that changes this window unit 1A height value to 0, which is what controls that little transom. Just going to go ahead and hit OK. And the nice thing is that anytime this particular window shows up in the project, it will change it. Only got to do it once. I don't know what that. Yeah, see, that looks okay. Saying that looks okay, I would say. And then yeah, that's the win. That's good. Okay, cool. So now at this point, you do a couple of things. We can draw floors, pretty self-explanatory. We do it's Command FL. On the first floor, we do this concrete slab on grade, 4 inches. All you're gonna do is come in here and trace around the outside of the building. Then once we go up to the second floor, we usually do, now double check this with your PM, but we usually do this wood joist, 3/4 sheeting, 3/4 gypcrete. It's also got gyp on the bottom. We usually do this family here. It's about 1'10". So you're gonna do the same thing. You're gonna just trace around the outside of the buildings, uh, being careful with the breezeways, because one thing on the first floor, you'll notice, and this might be easier to see here in the 3D view, here in the breezeway generally, and that's because we slope this guy right there. You can kind of see it slope right there. That's a design feature to get water out of these things. So we kind of just set that. It never changes. So yeah, you're going to want to not do these parts of the breezeways when you draw your floors, but you'll have to do that for first, second, and third floor, and you'll have to do it for your porches too. We have a separate porch. You'll see porch here, 2-inch gypcrete porch. That's generally what we do for our porch floor systems. If your project is Trex, we'll get another one for you. Just ask or just double check that with your PM that whether that's a Trex job or a conventional truss. And then you're going to go around and put brick and siding and however else you want to design this building on the front. One thing you'll run into when you do that, you'll see we have kind of a weird. We have this siding isn't cutting out this little hole here. So what we want to do is just join the walls together. So if I go here, I think I should be able to see this here. Yeah. So all we need to do is hit J twice. There you go. And then we're just going to click those two together, and now it's nice and cut out. And you can add trim. You can add a little louver, whatever you want. One thing about the brick and siding is it is a separate wall type. It's a separate wall from our interior wall that we just broke as part of these guys right here. So it's just the same thing. You're gonna hit WA, WA. You're gonna find brick, siding, or whatever finish you want. They usually start with the word finish in here. And again, the building, being mindful of your base constraints. Usually our bricks on the first floor, uncontected, like 2 feet. If we're doing siding, if it's board and bat, usually if it's on the first floor, we start it after that 2 feet, and then we go up to like the third floor or something like that, where we'll do something different on the top. However, you need to do it for your design. And then of course, fascia and gutters, pretty simple. Under the roof tab, you'll find commands for fascia and gutters. You're going to find whatever, we usually don't do 1x12, 1x8 is more typical, and you're literally just going to click around the outside of the roof like that. The same thing for the gutters. You're just going to take whatever gutter family you want and click around the outside of the fascia. Got gutters and fascia on your roof. It'll look a little bit more presentable. And then downspouts are going to be you're going to hit CM or go to this component tab here, and we should have downspouts in here. I didn't check it. Yeah, we don't have it in this file, which you can find that on the X drive. Just search for it. You'll be able to pull that in. You either go load family under insert, or you can find it in your browser and drag and drop. Like if that was what I want, you can drag and drop into there. One other thing we need to add is our fire riser room. Cannot forget the fire riser room. It's easy to forget. We're going to go back to place model group, and then we're going to go riser room. And then we're just going to kind of place it. It's just this little guy here. It's where they bring in the fire service to the building. We're just going to line that up, usually in the middle. Sometimes it's off to the side, just whatever the design kind of calls. Just pull it tight to the building, and now we've got our fire. Oftentimes we'll have windows on the side. Just whatever your design kind of calls for is okay. You can join these roofs, JJ, and then it'll show up a little bit better. But that's really about it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks.